Hey, it's Tpok, and back in Leaves Overflow. You can cry out to him, and he'll never answer. You can look for him, and all you'll behold is an ugly mountain whose summit you want to say you can see, but you'd be deluding yourself because it's always hidden in storm clouds or shrouded in fog. There is no God. There is just solitude, an emptiness so vast that you can't even begin to bear it. So you look around for something, anything at all, to fill it. Drugs, sex, what have you. Anything. So the truth really isn't that painful, no. It just happens to be a bitch. I was starting to become unable to focus on anything. I closed my eyes. I could feel the exhaustion from my all-nighters start crashing down on me. Half of me was already dreaming. And my dreams weren't so different from reality. For instance, I was seeing myself forced to tidy up all the litter that covered the floor. The girl from the bus stop came to mind. For a moment, her cold smile flashed into my head, and then it was gone. Erased. I didn't know where dream ended and reality began anymore. It was too hard to try to figure out what was what anymore. So I gave myself over to sleep at last. The world was still, peaceful, and warm. Tpok had once told me that she would sit and watch me sometimes while I slept. She told me she'd never seen a face so peaceful in her life. I'd laughed at her at the time, but now I knew she was telling the truth. Noises jostled me out of my blissful sleep. I felt as if I'd been plucked out of a tranquil stream and dropped into whirling rapids. Not a pleasant way to wake up, I tell you. Come on, wakey wakey, I half heard a familiar voice and tone, as if from a great distance. I let out an incoherent sound that was a half yawn, half groan, and not even remotely human. It's 8 p.m. 8 p.m. Rise and shine already. Come on, I'm telling you. The night's already half gone, and I'm getting awfully bored just standing here watching you snore. I cracked my eyes open to find Tpok staring down at me. Good morning, she said with a sweet and therefore evil gleam in her eyes. All bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, I see. I groaned back. For crying out loud, I'm tired. I'm sleepy. Why'd you wake me up? Man, that meant I'd slept for over 12 hours now. But I still felt like I hadn't gotten any rest. I was still exhausted from work, so it was all I could do right now to keep my eyes open as I lay there on the hard floor. Tpok just smiled, stooped over, and brought her head up close to mine. No soapy scent anymore. Maybe I just imagined it earlier. Dinner's ready, you know, she said happily. Think you can get up off your feet already, so we can eat? I sighed and turned to look at the low coffee table. There were 2 plates sitting there, with steam rising from both of them. Meat sauce again, I grumbled. What, you got something against that? She retorted. I grimaced before nodding and going, yeah, I do. Oh, jeez. Come on, why? She asked, pouting. It's not really pouting, that's a death stare. Obviously, I shot back because spaghetti with meat sauce is all you ever make. Cook something else for a change, maybe instant curry. Change up your repertoire from time to time. She looked at me blankly. So I added a sarcastic, and for crying out loud, everything you cook is instant or out of a can anyhow, for good measure. Hey, I boiled the pasta, that counts as cooking, she said sweetly. To which I made a sour face and retorted, "And the meat sauce comes out of a can or a microwave pouch." "Hey, I boiled the pasta. That counts as cooking," she repeated sweetly. I looked into her eyes for a moment. She looked so happy for some reason. I decided to let it go. I said with a sigh, "Cook something else the next time around, okay?" "Oh, and where's the food I bought?" "It was so delicious, thank you very much," she replied, her smile now splitting into a full-fledged grin. "What? But there were 2 portions, weren't there?" I asked dryly. "I'm a grown girl, you see, so," she murmured with a blush. "I was real hungry, and you ate everything," I finished for her. While I was sound asleep at that, I frowned. This wasn't very much like her. She met the building irritation in my eyes with another smile, and then made a beeline for the spaghetti. Time to eat," she cried out happily. And she started stuffing her face without delay. After swallowing her first mouthful down, she turned to me with a grin and proclaimed, "Tastes great. Come on, Tomohiro. Aren't you gonna have some? It'll get cold, so eat up while you can." I'm coming," I replied. I got up and came to the table. Tuka was just scarfing her pasta down with great enjoyment, even though by all the rights she should have been tired of eating the stuff by now. This innocent appearance of hers had never changed. Not ever since we were kids, playing with each other in sandlots, her bossing me around. Although bullying is more accurate than bossing. Why, how the mighty have fallen. She had a face and a body that couldn't tell a lie, no matter how hard she tried. Everything about her was simple and unaffected, and it was her best feature. There was a vague, full feeling in my chest as I watched her unabashedly lay waste to her dinner. Was this how love felt like? "Anyway," she chattered, "you worked so hard. How much did you make this time, Her lips and teeth were stained with the color of meat sauce by this time. "No clue," I grunted. "Hey, you're lying," she chuckled. "Which means you must make a ton, right? So tell me, how much?" 25,800 yen, I muttered. She looked startled, then, "Whoa, that's crazy. 25,800 yen a night. Oh man, they pay you way too much." "Too much, my ass," I said under my breath. Now I was pretty irritated. I knew Tuka didn't have a malicious bone in her body, well, at least ever since I became strong enough to break her bones. But still, I couldn't hear anything but sarcasm in her remark. See, the thing was, if she ever got into the mood to really work, someone like her could easily make a small fortune. Hundreds of thousands of yen every day, as a matter of fact. "Fine," I snapped. "How much did you rake in?" Tuka's eyes went wide at the harshness of my speech. She dabbed her lips with a tissue, crumpled the tissue up and left it on the table, then looked up at me from across the table. What's the matter?" she stammered. "Are you mad at me? Sorry, I didn't mean anything, I swear." I half smiled at this, then, "I'm not mad, at least not that much. So, how much?" How much what?" Tuka asked, a stupid blank look on her face. "How much money, obviously," I snorted. 50,000, 60,000, even more than that. "Haha, you're totally barking up the wrong tree, silly," she laughed. Even as her mouth curved into a smile, she brought her right hand up and showed me 3 fingers. "So," I sneered, 30,000. She sighed. "That's 3,000, silly. 3,000. I almost dropped my fork. What? I sputtered. How the hell is that possible? What do you do, anyway? She shrugged. What do you mean? Obviously, it's something real dirty. I see, I deadpanned. But, what kind of, services do you offer for a mere 3,000 yen? Or, I guess this means the deflationary spiral has really done a number on our economy, huh? She looked up at me and said, "Oh, really?" with another shrug. "Don't ask me," I retorted. I cleared my throat, then went to the refrigerator and brought out the ginger ale I'd bought earlier that day. Or today. I started drinking, trying to wash down the aftertaste of the meat sauce. She smiled at me vaguely, and then quietly she mused. I wonder, maybe a hand job for 3,000 yen? Which was why I unceremoniously sputtered all over the place. Hey, she cried out, what's wrong? Who the hell talks about that kind of stuff over dinner? I protested loudly. That's disgusting. Oh, sorry, she replied disingenuously. For crying out loud, I muttered in return. I wiped the flecks of meat sauce off the table, then took another gulp of ginger ale. Meat sauce and ginger ale. Two things that went together so badly you had to laugh. But at this point I didn't care as long as my thirst was quenched. Whatever. Better than drinking the rust-flavored effluent they called tap water around here. Well then, I started. Oh, well, is that what you do for a living after all? Tuka's only response was a pensive, She wasn't meeting my eyes. This was suspicious. Come on, I taunted her. Don't be shy now. Yeah, fine. That's what I do, she finally managed. Now it was my turn to let out a pensive, See, that didn't make any sense. A girl as cute and wholesome looking as her could easily turn more than a mere 3,000 yen a trick. So she was either selling herself short, or there was something else going on here. She's buying drugs. Yeah. And so the words came to my lips, hissing like bubbles from the bottom of a glass of ginger ale. Or maybe there's a man involved. I didn't even think of that. A tall, dark, handsome one, who stole your heart and everything else besides. Was that it? Tuka looked stunned. In the silence, she managed to quiet. What? The air between us seemed to frost over. I had no idea what this was supposed to mean, obviously. Tuka seemed to withdraw into herself, struggling with every last bit of strength to keep that tight mask of control on her face. Oh, come on, she finally burst out petulantly. What the hell do you think you're talking about? You don't know anything, for crying out loud, you freaking retard. I'd never do such a thing. You've got it all wrong. I chuckled dryly, then retorted, Yeah, right, whatever you say. But let's be reasonable now. A fuck's a fuck, whether you're doing it for pleasure or for money. There's no difference. What? You really are dense, aren't you? Do you have any idea what you're talking about? Obviously not. Tuka zinged right back. My response was immediate and cold as ice. The only dense person I see here is you. Do you really think it matters? Well, wake up, Missy. Have sex for money if that makes you happy. Hell, have sex out of some misguided devotion to some non-existent emotion like love or hate, if that's what makes you happy. Just don't tell me they're not the same. Stop insulting my intelligence. Oh, taking the friggin' moral high ground, are we? Tuka snorted derisively. Get off it already. You're just making yourself look like an idiot. Quit it with your empty truisms. You don't know anything. You don't freaking know anything at all. What the hell is wrong with you? What are you, 13 years old? ready to break out into pimples again? Disgusting. I'd be laughing my ass off if it weren't so pathetic. She glared at me with eyes so red and filled with tears that it also almost looked like someone had dripped hot sauce into them. And that look on her face. She looked mad enough to start pulling out all the hair out of her head at any moment now. The funny thing was, things had been going so smoothly up until we started this conversation. And now I couldn't take back what I was about to say. So I said it. Your words have zero chance of touching me. So talk all you want. You're wasting your breath. But I expect nothing less from such a waste of time and space. What? She hissed sharply. Are you talking about? I sighed, then retorted. Since you like calling me a moron, you can figure this one out yourself, I guess, genius. Oh, that's right. You can't, can you? So I'll just have to spell it out for you. We're two ships passing in the night, you and I. Two ships passing in the night, she managed. Her voice had fallen to a whisper by now, and I couldn't take back anything I was saying. We're totally different. No relationship to each other. Strangers. Never crossed paths. This is goodbye. We're finished, you and I. I could hear Tpok gulp softly in the ensuing silence. Whatever emotion had been in those pretty eyes and that empty head of hers had long since faded. And been replaced by a color that was sad and close to despair. Then she whispered, For real? No kidding. You're not joking. Her voice was flat. No kidding. And now I couldn't take back anything I'd said. I didn't know much, but I knew for a fact now that I was the kind of guy who would tear his girl down like this. I knew for a fact that I was a wretch in the world. I get it, she finally managed. The room was silent. Tears ran down her face and dripped onto the floor. They sounded awfully loud. So, she continued. So, is this it? I'm not good enough for you after all. We're too different from each other. I didn't say a word. So after a short silence, she went on. I'm so frightened. I don't know what to say. Maybe I don't even have the right to say anything, huh? I didn't say a word. I wondered why I was so mistaken. Can you tell me that at least? She pleaded. I didn't say a word. I had nothing left to say. There hadn't been anything to say in the first place. It was supposed to have been your standard after-work banter. How much did you make? What did you do? It didn't mean anything other than that. But now it's too late to take back anything. That's the way it always is, right? The beginning of a dispute is always such a small thing. A small thing that germinates into a force worth of strife and enmity. A relationship. A place to belong. A common link. An unbreakable bond. People everywhere on this miserable earth struggle and bite, beg and whine, mutilate and murder for those things. And when at last you find someone you think you can trust in, you begin to give yourself over, and then that's it. The first domino falls by choice, then the rest fall because they must. Ashes, ashes, all fall down. When all's said and done, though, it's not as if it's anyone's at fault. Can you blame other people for the pain you've suffered, really? Can you do that when you know that all human beings are essentially weak, insecure, unstable, walking dead? So when you seek this eternal bonds of yours, some stupid non-existent place where you want to belong, consider this. That dream is so immense and so far away that too long for it is to long forever. to wish, for it is to wish no end. To pray for it is to pray for a God who does not exist, and who would never answer you even if he did. Empty truisms, my ass. Don't blame your failings on the relationships you make. The only common weakness is all in them. In all of them is your heart and nothing else. That's why I generally left other people well alone. Even if they were screwed up and going nowhere fast, I didn't say a word to them. I told myself that it was out of respect for them and their situations, but that wasn't nearly true. There was a desperate feeling in me that I could not shake, that I was a coward, but I had no inclination to change. Well, guys, I don't really like Tomohiro right now. I mean, I understand why he's upset, but I think he went a bit too far with that. So, yeah. Anyways, guys, I'm ending it here, so, yeah, I'll see you next time.